gives me great pleasure to introduce tonight the Impact Performance Group, led by Joseph, a former Black Panther who has used his talent and energies to organize young people. I think once you've seen their performance, you'll never forget them. So without further ado, we want to bring aboard the Impact Performers.
All power to the people. On the move. Free Jamil.
Free Jamil.
Free Mumia.
Free Mumia.
Free all prisoners of war. This is a great reunion tonight. We are seeing faces that we haven't seen, but we are glad to celebrate that they're with us. Lynn Stewart, we are so glad that you are here with us. What is Impact?
It's not a game.
What is Impact?
It's not a game.
How come it's not a game?
Because what we do now matters forever.
Because what?
Because what we do now matters forever.
And how long is forever?
Forever and ever and ever.
I stands for?
Inspiration.
M.
Motivation.
P.
Preparation.
A.
Activism.
C.
Commitment.
T.
Teamwork.
And our credo is?
We are youth activists who view the creative arts and leadership training as ways to develop ourselves and change the world in a positive way. We believe that we must be the message that we bring through hard work, focus, discipline, unity, and the principles of SOS. Safe space, our standing effort, and service to our family, friends, and community.
So as a Panther, and those of us who are Panthers, don't say former Black Panthers, as a Panther, and as a young activist or as a young Black man that was searching, I met Jamil when I was 15 years old, and he took the time to really sit with me, one-on-one. I had seen him at an event, but he took the time. He loved and continues to love young people because he understands the youth is our future. As we said in the Black Panther Party, the youth is the revolution. And the thing that motivates me to do the work that I do with young people, and I'll be very, very brief, because Impact writes and creates all of their material, and they know that when you combine activism and art that you have artivists, is that the thing I remember about being young, being 14 and a half, 15 years old, coming into the movement, is the time that the great brothers and sisters in the movement took to spend with me to help mold me. Brothers like Jamil, sisters like Afeni Shakur, brothers like Dhoruba bin Wahad, who's here, who you'll hear from later, who took the time to mentor a brother, to guide a brother. And so it is in that spirit that we honor Jamil and that Impact is invited to open the program. The rest they'll say for themselves, in their own words, their own music, their own choreography, the artivists of our community, Impact Repertory Theater.
I wasn't born Crip, and I wasn't born blood, but when there were no hugs at home, the streets showed me love. Frankenstein made a monster. America made TV, and I saw 1,000 murders before I was 3. I wasn't born a liar. I didn't know how to steal, but Hoya values told me I needed the riches to be real. I had Malcolm and Martin, but y'all shot them down. I tried to get a job and y'all said no with a frown. I went to crowded schools with teachers who were stressed. But when I tried to go to college, they said it was reserved for the best. I wanted to play at the center. They said the course was too high. So I went to the mountains to dream. And they let my dream die. So I asked for a moment, so I could speak of the pain. They said, stop acting like a baby, life's not a game. So I put on my headphones to drown out the screams. And they ran me up the corner for making a scene. No present, no future, no hope I can call. Even a mouse will turn vicious when its back's against the wall. I started life with a smile, but now, I don't know. Maybe you could tell me which way I should go. Midnight basketball, games at the park. How about a computer near my bed and a mentor with heart? They say the goal worth the struggle is a prize that's just right. I'm the promise of tomorrow. Am I not worth the fight? I'm the village that'll grow from the child. I am your future in just a short while. They say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Frankenstein made a monster. What will you make me? Whoa!
Everybody share that mic. Give her the mic. Take it to her.
Everybody can hear me? So how was that? Repertory Theater started and led by Jamal Joseph, who, by the way, was a member of the New York Panther 21, along with Dhoruba. So we have a small reunion tonight of two great fighters. We are very happy that everybody turned out. We're very glad to see all of you and welcome you to this historic event where we're trying to build a campaign for Jamil Al-Amin. Tonight is not a one-shot event. This is part of a strategy that has been developed with a whole lot of people. Mumia is one of them. He certainly got us involved in the Mumia movement. But we are here, and this program, if you haven't looked at the program, will end with the panel after the different speakers speak. It will end with them having a conversation about what we do next. So, some of that has been started. Some of you have signed the letter to Eric Holder. This is part of a campaign to get Imam Jamil the right kind of medical treatment, to keep him from being returned to solitary confinement anywhere, and to ultimately get him free. The last time around, Eric Holder played a role in getting Imam out of Florence Max and getting the necessary, at least, diagnosis and early treatment. So we're hoping to make that happen again and again and again until he's free. If you have not signed that letter, please stop at the front desk and sign the letter to Eric Holder. Not that we have a lot of faith in Eric Holder, it's that we have faith in ourselves and the movement's ability to affect it. So we don't for a moment think he's a good guy, just to make it clear. We don't for a moment think Obama gives a hoot about Jamil Al-Amin or anything like that, but we do have a feeling that our power can move things and make things happen. We did get the Imam to get out of Florence Max the first time. We did get Mumia off death row. We did get Marshal Eddie Conway out. We did get Lynn Stewart to be with us tonight. So if we continue to build unity and work together, there's no end to what we can accomplish, and that's what tonight is about. Now, we are very happy and appreciative to have this event at Local 1199. People talk about workers, people talk about union support, people have fantasies about the revolution that's going to be led by the workers, but in the meantime, we are very happy to have Local 1199 always with us, always. And there hasn't been a time in my memory when I've come to 1199 and asked for some support for political prisoners or anything else progressive that we haven't gotten it. And tonight, we're really happy to have a very special sister who's vice president of Local 1199, a long-time activist who did not change her politics once she became vice president of 1199. And I speak, of course, about my good friend who traveled to Bolivia with me, who suffered through many experiences in the shortage of air in La Paz, and so we all survived it, and I welcome Estela Vasquez. Please give her a warm hand.
Buenas noches. Good evening, sisters and brothers. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome each and every one of you to our union. On behalf of the members of 1199, on behalf of the leadership of 1199, bienvenidos, you are welcome. It is especially important to us to remember the words of an African revolutionary. I'm talking about Amilcar Cabral of Guinea-Bissau. Amilcar said once that solidarity is not an act of charity. Solidarity is an act of defense of mutual interest. And when we call for the freedom of political prisoners, we are calling also for the right of workers in this country to have decent wages and decent working conditions. When we call for the freedom of political prisoners, we are also calling for justice for Eric Garner. When we call for the freedom of political prisoners. We also call for justice for all the victims of police brutality in this country. And for us tonight, we are especially pleased to have you in this hall. We have had meetings here calling for the freedom of Umia Abdul-Jamal. We have had meetings in this hall calling for the freedom of Lynn Stewart, and I am so proud, my sister, that you're here with us tonight. We have had meetings calling for the freedom of Leonard Peltier. We have had meetings calling for what is now the longest held political prisoner in this country, our Puerto Rican brother, Oscar Lopez Rivera. So tonight, I am especially honored to welcome you to our building and to say yes to the release of our brother, Iman Jamil Al-Amin. Power to the people, release the brother. Thank you. Gracias.
The next speaker, of course, is very, very key. Can everybody hear me in the back? Everybody? Okay. The next speaker is very, very key to this struggle. She's played a major role, not only as the wife of Jamil Al-Amin, but she's also been his attorney. She also has had a long history of the struggle with him. She made Hajj with him back in 1976. I've just met her on the phone for the last few weeks, and she's been amazing to talk with. In the middle of the kind of pressure she's under, she's been calm, paid attention to details, respectful, loving, inspiring, and I'm very, very honored to have met and to now consider a sister, Sister Karima Al-Amin. Please welcome.
First of all, I didn't know I was going to be number one up here, but I am so very happy to be here, and there are so many people to thank, and I would just spend all of my time just thanking people. But I do want to, it's my pleasure to be here, right here in this facility, because it seems like this 1199 has done so much over the years, and they've been with all of us. So even though I'm down in Atlanta, and it's just amazing to see all of this energy here in New York. I do want to extend Imam Jamil, and I do call him Imam Jamil. I want to extend his greetings and his appreciation, and he would say Assalamu alaikum to everyone. And that's how I begin, and I begin in the name of Allah, the most merciful, the mercy giver. You know, we have a lot of people, or several people on the program this evening, and they're going to share just wonderful, wonderful information with you. And sometimes I never know, even I've been with Imam Jamil for 47 years. Wow. And sometimes I don't have the opportunity, or I'm not in a setting that I really want to share personal information. But it seems like this is one big happy family. So I will share some of that information. Before I forget, Lynn Stewart, I really have to tell you that my husband has been following every piece of information about you. He told me, please send her a card, and I did, and I hope you got it, but it was from us. So many others are here that I have followed. I loved the performance from Impact. We always, and especially in Atlanta, we always say, what are the young people doing? And this was a very good example of it. When I met my husband, I met him July 1967. And we all know in August 1967, Hoover had his big day with COINTELPRO that affected all of us. And I had just graduated from college, and my parents were really happy that I graduated before I met my husband, because they told me, they said it would have been a wrap. So I did get out there. I had all intentions on getting a job. My parents sent me to, at that point, a predominantly, what we'd say, European, predominantly white institution. And being that I was born and raised in New York City, and especially in Harlem, my parents said, you go, you get the skills, and then you come back and give it to our people. So right after college, I met my husband, and I've been with him since then. The personal things I want to, and I'm going to get to where he is now, why he is there, and what's going on with his medical condition. But I do want to set the stage. He was one of 5 mentioned in COINTELPRO. It was my husband, as H. Rap Brown, Stokely Carmichael, Martin Luther King, Max Stanford, and Elijah Muhammad. And the 4 organizations were targeted: SNCC, SCLC, Nation of Islam, and RAM. Right after I met my husband, well, before I met my husband, my sister and her husband, they were arrested with RAM, and was RAM 17. And it was designed at that time because the RAM individuals, my sister was a school teacher, and you know Herman Ferguson, he was an assistant principal. And so what it was saying, the government was saying, well, it's more than just the grassroots or the people without jobs rebelling. You know, it expanded into the so-called middle class. But the FBI, right after I met my husband, they contacted me, and they wanted me to work for the FBI. They wanted me to tell them where my husband, my soon-to-be husband, where he was traveling. And they told me at that time, well, if you help us, we'll drop the charges against your sister and her husband. And I said, well, you know, they were framed, so I'm not even going to go there. I'm not going to cooperate. 5 years later, my husband is still saying he could never figure out whether I had cooperated or not. He's still telling me that, right? But I'm saying that to say that I came from a very, very strong family. Family was very important. My mother was Canadian. My father was US from Virginia. The FBI harassed my family to the extent that just within 1 year, within months of each other, it was 1971, my father, he dropped dead in the street, and the FBI had just visited him on his job. A month after that, the Imam Jamil's mother died. 2 months after that, my mother went into Roosevelt Hospital, and she died 2 months after that. So within February 1971, March, then June, and then October 71, Imam Jamil, after being underground for 19 months, he was captured, shot, and imprisoned. We went through all of that to the extent my mother thought that the FBI had poisoned my father. And so it brought our family closer and closer together, but it demonstrated the extent and the degree that they will go to divide family members. And that's why it's so happy to see this one big happy family here. I'm going to right now deal with my husband's medical condition. And before doing that, he was convicted of the murder of a Fulton County Sheriff's deputy and the wounding of another. He was convicted in 2002 after being arrested from 2000, in March 2000. Even though there is a person who confessed right after the incident, and that is part of our federal habeas now, that he was convicted and taken to a state prison. In 2006, while he was in a state prison in Georgia, there was a group of Muslims who wanted him to be the imam over all of the Georgia Muslim inmates. Naturally, the Georgia Department of Corrections, they took a position that it would give my husband too much influence, and they wanted him to stop the initiative. He did not start the initiative, but they wanted him to stop it. And he said it's no problem. But then here comes the FBI, and the FBI goes into the prison and they do a report, and the report is entitled The Radicalization of Muslim Inmates in the Georgia Prison System. Based on this solidarity movement, which I'm using the words of the Georgia prison system, they called it a solidarity movement, and they said they just could not have it. Therefore, he had to be moved out of the state of Georgia. Under an agreement, a March 1990 agreement, they moved, and the agreement was between Georgia and the federal area of prisons. Under that agreement, they moved him.
And so they were
gave him up to the
throw the book at him. After his conviction,
we know
the prosecutor said
that they gave him up based on not only the history that he has under H. Rap Brown, but because of being an imam also. And, you know, it was that hysteria when he went to trial around 9/11. And so they were really ready to just throw the book at him. After his conviction, the prosecutor said after 24 years, and the 24-year period, they dated it back to 1976 when he walked out of a New York prison. And the prosecutor said after 24 years, we finally got him. So this is what he has been faced with. He remains strong in his commitment. He always says the struggle continues. And he always, in his words, he says, we have to fight these chumps. We have to fight them. So right after he went into the feds, they moved him directly to Florence ADX, the Supermax, which I know organizations have been calling for shutting them all down. He's been there in solitary confinement in a unit that he can get out maybe once a day, but in like a dog pen. The intent for not only Georgia, but the federal government is to isolate him completely, to not let anyone around him, not to let him around anyone else. Even in the isolation, when he was in Reedsville, he was still educating people. He was still helping the young inmates who were in there to make sure that they read and to become political and to have the right consciousness that they should have. He also was able to work with some of the Aryan brothers there, and some of them took Shahada and became Muslim. So with his being out in Florence, he developed a medical problem, and it started with his teeth. And it ended up when my son, our son, he's 26 years old, he's now an attorney, a Georgia attorney also, so they have to deal with both of us. And his jaws were so big that his earlobes were just resting on his jaws from the abscess and the fluids going down into his body. He waited like 10 months. He would put in to see a dentist, to see a physician and everything, and they would not let him see one. He became very ill when we were out there, May 2013. February 19, in 2014, February, the beginning of the year, he was 227 pounds. He dropped all the way down to 194. We kept on saying, something's wrong, we have to do something. Pam Africa, Aaliyah Walker in Philadelphia, they started getting the ball rolling and talking about Pam on the move. You can't stop that. So naturally, we absolutely appreciate Pam, Aaliyah, and Brother Mumia, who I still don't understand how he can make all of these, but I won't say it, okay? Okay. So we had to launch a campaign to get him moved. And Imam Talib with MANA, he started the ball rolling here. He got 2 congressional reps to call out there. And then it ended up in Mississippi with the summer 64, the 50th anniversary in Mississippi. There were a lot of SNCC folks there, and as you know, Imam Jamil was the chairperson of SNCC. From May 1967, he succeeded Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture. And they had a petition. And then Congressman Benny Thompson of Mississippi, he got involved. By the time Benny Thompson finished, he went on the House floor and got all of the Congressional Black Caucus members to sign a letter joining me in calling what they were doing in Florence, Colorado, execution by medical neglect. That's right. And I know you're recording this, and we did not think that the Congressional Black Caucus would do something like that. And I am really very, very happy to say that, we had the support of Charles Rangel, of Yvette Clarke, Sheila Lee, Jackson Lee. They really stepped out. And so we're really very appreciative of that. Right now, he is at Butner, North Carolina, the Federal Medical Center. They originally thought that he had the preliminary, and I'm rushing, the preliminary stage of multiple myeloma. They thought he had what's called MGUS. Well, he does not have the preliminary stage, he has the intermediate stage, which is called smoldering myeloma. There's a clinical trial, and the clinical trial, they try to work to intervene by giving medication. With him, they are not going to give any treatment at all. They will wait until it becomes multiple myeloma. In addition to that, he has other issues. He has lung issues. His red blood cells, white blood cells, and his platelets are low. They don't know what that is about, but they are ready to transfer him out of Butner Medical Center. And we are very concerned about that. If he's returned to Florence, he will return until another episode happens, and at that point it will be too late. So we're going to discuss some of the things that we can do to try to make it easier for him. They are making it very difficult for us to visit him. We can go for 2 hours on a Tuesday or Wednesday to visit him as attorneys. Any social visits, they don't want him in the room when other visitors or other inmates are there, so they will put him behind a glass and then will not even let a social visit take place on the same days as everyone else is there. He has always been treated that way. He has been treated differently than, they go against all of their regulations. They come up with new rules for him because they do not want him to have any influence on any other person. There is so much more I can say, but I tell you, the ones who will be coming up here are so important, and they have so much information for you. I just don't have time to share all of my stories with you. But I do want to yield to them, and then I'll be available at the end. Again, thank you so much for being here with us. It means a lot to us, and coming from Atlanta to see all of this energy in here. Yeah, I think that, we do it a little differently in the South, right? I've been in the South too long, and I guess I need to come back to New York. Again, assalamu alaikum.
Hello, beautiful people. It is my pleasure to be here. As a young person, there are so many elders in this room that have been holding it down, and we need that. So thank you all for your work, for your commitment to your people, to liberation. That is why they enslave and chain and keep them behind bars, because they are more free than us out here walking these streets crazy. So we need the elders that know what they're talking about. My name is Kyla, and I'm here today to introduce Amir Khalid Abdul Samad. This brother is going to be speaking about Imam Jamil Al-Amin and his work working with youth and street organizations. And he is also the executive director of Peace in the Hood, which does a lot of work with young people, also making sure that they're getting their thing on track and that they are learning their history as the true, history. So.
Assalamu alaikum. Hotep. Habarigani. Free the land. Reparations yesterday. Are y'all ready for revolution? I ask Almighty God to guide my heart and to guard my tongue. I bear witness that there's no creator but the Creator, who we know by many names. And we all understand that don't nobody get out of life alive, so it's all about the spiritual struggles of our people. And our people have been struggling since our sojourn here. And on that note, I'd like to ask one of the elders permission to go forward. Thank you, Asante Sana. We stand on the shoulders of those who came here from the west coast of Africa to the Americas in the bottom of slave ships, and we ain't gonna never let America forget that. We gotta always remember the hundreds and thousands of millions of people who's crying out for recognition in the bottom of that ocean, and those who came here and worked from sunup to sundown. SEIU, you know all about that, right? Working for no wages. That's right. And so we thank the Creator for their lives and for our lives, and it's an honor and pleasure to be here. I just want to say that on behalf of an organization that Imam Jamil first helped to put together back in 1983 called Al-Amin. And one of the visions that he had was that we're not outnumbered, we are organized. We're not outnumbered, we are outorganized. And when he began to talk about his teenage years, and Sister Karima talked about it quite eloquently, his brother, Ed Brown, we can't forget him, who was kicked out of Southern University by someone who said, we're not going to have you Negroes down here engaged in revolution in Louisiana. We own this university. And that's where Imam Jamil had a wake-up call, because his brother was not just expelled from the university, but also told he wouldn't be able to attend any university in Louisiana. But little did they know, he ended up in Washington, D.C. with Ella Baker and all them brothers and sisters that put together a real game called SNCC. Why is it important that we understand the history? Because COINTELPRO, which emerged, is a war strategy. COINTELPRO means war on you, and it was war on black people then, and it's war on black people today. It's just on steroids. We done forgot about the struggle. So Imam Jamil, as a teenager, was thrusted into this. I want to tell you that as a young man in 1968, he came to Cleveland, Ohio. And he lit us up because he talked about black was just not necessary. It was not sufficient, it was necessary. And he talked about the importance of the struggle and understanding he had just came out of Alabama, where they were down there looking at the real Black Panther Party, and down in Lowndes County and down in Mississippi with a little sister that used to hold that candle and sing a song called This Little Light of Mine. Y'all know who she was. Fannie Lou what? All right. Had joined their hands with Sister Ella Baker. This is the history that our young people haven't been told. They haven't been told about COINTELPRO. They haven't been told about the Panther Party. They have not been told about the struggles that took place in many cities throughout this United States in the 60s that came out of the Black Power movement when Mukasa Rick stood up and said, Black power for black people. We done forgot about those days. But see, the FBI never forgot, as Sister Karima told us. But there's a little nip in the history. See, after Imam Jamil got out of prison, he turned the prison into a think tank. And he went about the business of going throughout major cities. Because in 1983, we got to understand this. At the same time, there was a revolutionary spirit coming amongst our people all throughout urban America. There was something called the Back is Back movement now. Black was back right then in 1983 and 84. Jesse was running for president. Y'all forgot about that. There was a resurrection of what we call the Afrocentric movement. People were coming together and getting out of prisons. In the same time that they did that, they dropped crack cocaine all over every major city in this country. See, y'all forgot about that. Right here in New York City, crack cocaine. In Detroit, crack cocaine. In Cleveland, crack cocaine. But what they didn't realize that Imam Jamil would give a spirit to the movement, what was called Stop the Killing movement, and came out to LA and went into Chicago and sat down with the street organization. See, you don't understand the level of the COINTELPRO program during this time. Bloods and Crips out of LA. Imam Jamil went out there and sat with the leaders. It took years to bring them back together, to put together a peace treaty. But you know who was there? We were there in Watts when the Bloods and Crips came together, because we said, we're Bloods, we're Crips. And then we went to Chicago and said, we're Vice Lords, we're Blackstone, we're folks, to bring the brothers and sisters together in the community. And at that particular time, that all these treaties were going on, we lost sight of the fact that the FBI hadn't stopped doing their program, COINTELPRO on steroids. COINTELPRO on steroids. But what history will show as we go back and look at it, and as you look at it today and you think about it, very little thing happened, a very strange thing happened in every major city where we went with this movement. It's called the Urban Peace and Justice Movement. Violent crime went down over 25%. Gang-related shootings went out of over 25%. When the treaty was signed in LA in 1992, homicides dropped immensely. We went to Chicago 6 months later and signed a truce and a peace treaty there. Homicides went down. Drive-by shootings went down. All kind of madness that was going on in our community. And the FBI had not forgot about it because that was not supposed to happen. So as crime was going down in every major city in this country, what else was going on? The prison industrial complex was in full effect. So as crime went down, as gang violence went down, as drive-by shootings went down, the criminalization of black and brown youth in this country went what? Up! Went up! And so what happened is the COINTEL program on steroids saw fit to try to get Imam Jamil off the street. He was a peacemaker, a social reformer, helping to take brothers and sisters out of the street and in the think tanks to bring them around from being self-explosive and self-indulgent and engaged in the madness of shooting and killing each other, becoming revolutionaries in the streets throughout this country. So as a result of that, in 1995, a so-called gang member was shot in Atlanta. Why is that important? Imam Jamil was charged with the shooting. The man said that the man that shot him was 5'9" and about dark brown, like my complexion. Imam is 6'5" and a little lighter than me. Now you just hold on to that tidbit. But what happened is, a little later on, we got a chance to talk to this brother. And he said, you know what they did, man? They threatened me. And they said, we want you to finger this man right here, Imam Jamil. We want him off the street. We know you're a Crip. We know you're selling drugs. This is what you're doing. If you agree to this, we'll give you a new identity. We'll move you out of town. You ain't never got to look back. But that brother had some self-consciousness about it. He said, I'm not doing that. In fact, I ain't even going no further with this. He didn't shoot me. I'm out of here. That was the first time. But they didn't stop then, you see. They kept trying to move on him in different kind of ways. So, once again, Atlanta, Georgia, a night in the West End. Imam Jamil is 6'5". Remember that. And look at the connection between the work he was doing with street organization. There was a shootout in Atlanta, no doubt about that. Somebody did die and somebody was wounded. But the officer who said that he was wounded said that he shot a man that was 5'9" with green eyes. Imam Jamil is 6'5" with brown eyes. You see where we going with this? You understand the injustice and the criminalization of people when we're not really on top of what's going on. That's why he's incarcerated right now. And he was buried alive in that place called the Supermax. Worse than Guantanamo. No real air. No real sunlight. When he went into the prison, he was all right. He was well. He was healthy. And now he's sick as a result of medical neglect. So what do we need to do? We need to tell the story. People don't know the contemporary history of Imam Jamil. They just know H-Rap. And that's good enough for a lot of people. But we got to talk about the transformation of rap to Imam Jamil. Because he was rapping was a lot of us was napping, if you know what I'm talking about. That's why he got that name, H-Rap Brown. So as I close out, I just want to say that I think this is an opportunity for us. A lot of people are talking about the summer of '64 and all the work that was done by the civil rights era people, and we already know that a lot of that work was real, that was going on down in that Delta in Mississippi and down in Alabama, and also up south in cities like New York and Newark and Philadelphia and Cleveland and Detroit, where they ain't got no water to drink right now. So it ain't just down south, it's up south. But what we need to do is to tell this narrative. And we understand that this is a campaign. And the reason why I said 64, because Imam Jamil was a 16-year-old young man in 1964 down in the Delta in Mississippi. down in Alabama with Mukasa Ricks when he threw the fist up and said, black power for black people. Black power. Black power. Black power. And that's why he's incarcerated today. So as I leave you, let's strategize tonight. Let's talk about the history. Let's connect the dot with this social reformer, this community organizer, this spiritual revolutionary who has helped to spearhead revolutionary movements. See, one of the things, and I'm going to close out with this, we got a lot of political prisoners in America, right? That's why we say without just cause, do what, Dhoruba? Free them all. Without just cause, without just cause. But what we forget about are those who became revolutionary and became political prisoners as Bloods, as Crips, as Vice Lords, as Latin Kings, as Inyeta, as Norteños, as Serenos. Those who are filling up prisons right now are becoming revolutionary. These are your new revolutionaries behind the walls. We gotta let them know, we gotta tell their story too, and they are political prisoners. So let's continue to do this work. Let's continue to pray for Imam Jamil and his family, and let's do something that Imam Jamil always said. Revolutionary or death means that it's freedom. Revolutionary or freedom or martyrdom, it's a win-win situation. Assalamu alaikum.